All right, let's see where we're at. One button says it's live, and one says it's starting. So we'll see. I think we're good. What's up, guys? I'm Trevor, elementary pastor. Just preached this weekend on Matthew chapter 6, verse 25 through 34 on worry. And okay, so yesterday I asked the question about like weird Olympic sports, and I got some responses, and someone texted me individually and said kayak cross, and I've never heard of this. There's an Olympic sport that is essentially bumper boats where you get put into a river with like man-made currents pushing you along as other riders or other paddler boaters, whatever they're called, kayakers, try to knock you off course, and you're trying to get around. Like, it is Google or YouTube kayak cross. It's crazy. And then the other thing I just saw on a clip on Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, was that the U.S. What's it called? Synchronized swimming team went upside down in the water and then moonwalked, which is unbelievable to me. So the Olympics are in full swing and they are crazy. So keep giving recommendations of things I can YouTube later. And then while we're waiting for people to jump on, I had the craziest experience of my life this morning. I went to the dentist, and I love the dentist, by the way. I leave and my teeth feel so clean and it's great. But I went to the dentist and I had a dental hygienist who talks with her hands. And I also talk with my hands, but when someone has sharp tools in your mouth and then they're trying to explain something to you, and it's like a hibachi grill chef on your gums and tongue, and it's really unpleasant. And she was like, "Oh, you're kind of bleeding," and I was like, "Of course I'm bleeding. You're stabbing me over and over." She was really nice. She just was a tad bit violent. So let's see what we got here. Linda, good morning. Welcome. Let's jump into the big question. A lot of people have said, like, man, I loved the Jeeps thing. I don't want to get the name wrong, but someone even commented, like, man, I already passed that on to someone who was feeling stuck, and I love that. Again, I get to go back and say the Jeeps thing is awesome because I didn't invent it, I didn't think of it, so it's not cocky for me to say that. Like, it's great. It's why when I found it, I was like, I should share this. And but another question that I got a lot, just from people in the lobby and even yesterday, was, hey, okay, so Jesus says, don't worry. So if I worry, is that sin? Like, because if Jesus tells you to do something, you don't do it, that's disobedience. When you disobey Jesus, that's called sin, and so is worry. So I said, that's a great question. And so what I want to tell you is this. My answer to this question, from a biblical foundation, is to the best of my ability and knowledge. So this is gonna be one of those things where when I talk to someone who like has never been baptized, but they've been following Jesus for a long time, and I go, hey, it's like, why haven't you been baptized? And they say, oh, I just grew up learning. Like, I grew up and was taught you don't have to. And I go, well, who taught you that? And they're like, oh, like that's what my church taught, my lead pastor. And you go, okay, that's not what Scripture tells us. And so I'm not trying to negate your faith in any way, shape, or form, but like at a certain point, like we need to look at Scripture for ourselves. And so what I'm telling you right now is that I am going to give you the best explanation that I can to my skill level. And if in 20 years you read the Bible and you find something different, please don't call me a liar. Please call me incorrect, and then let me know that I was wrong. Okay, like I'm very open. I'm very open to being wrong if it allows me to then be right. If that makes sense. So when Jesus says, do not worry, he's giving you the example of, hey, don't worry. Look at the birds, look at the flowers. Worrying doesn't add anything to your life. So don't worry because I got you. And we're coming from the context of earlier in the passage where he goes, hey, when you give and when you fast and when you pray, it's about what's going on inside, not it's about the relationship with God. It's not about the external thing that you're actually doing. And so when you worry, there is a physical component. Like, if I'm going for a walk in the woods and a bear comes out on the path in front of me, I should have a sense of anxiety. Like, that is the fight or flight part of your biology. I should be scared, right? Like, that's going to keep me alive or keep me safe, or remind me this is what you need to do when you encounter a bear. You get really big, no rah, or whatever. So to say, hey, this troublesome thing happened and I worried is a natural response. Now, there's a part where it goes to, are you dwelling on it? Because this is where Jesus comes back to, like, okay, if you're going to live in the kingdom, you have to trust the king. And if you're not trusting Jesus repeatedly, this becomes a sin issue. But to initially worry, I'll explain it this way. When you work with high schoolers, a question that they love to ask is like, "Oh, I have a," I'll talking to a high school guy in this imaginary conversation that's really happened. When a high school guy has a girlfriend, they ask the question like, "Man, like, how far is too far? Like, I want my relationship to be pure, but also I want to do stuff with my girlfriend." You go, "Oh, okay, this is an interesting conversation that we're about to have," right? Um, how do you balance the whole thing of like, I want to date somebody that I find attractive, but also lust is bad, and where do you find the balance between lusting versus I'm admiring God's creation? And you go, okay, it's a heart issue, and you can look at a girl and say that's a very good looking girl, and that's okay. But if you go follow her on Instagram and just start swiping through every single photo she has, let's look at the heart behind what you're doing. And with worry, it's that whole thing of like, hey, when you get a bill from the doctor, you get a bill from I had to get my car worked on, and you go, that's a lot of money. How am I going to pay for it? That's not sinful to have that moment of like, oh, what do I do about this? That, oh, we thought we were done having kids and we just found out that we're pregnant again. What are we gonna do? You're allowed to have a moment of that's not personal. My wife and I are not pregnant, just for the record. I want to throw that out there. I can get text right now. What are you what? Um, you can have that moment of worry because there's like biological. Jesus, before dying on the cross, is praying in the garden and he's sweating drops of blood. And he's like, God, if you could do anything about this, if you could take this cup from me, like he has a level of worry and anxiety. Now, the question is, do you allow that worry and anxiety to dictate your life? Do you go to that more than you go to Jesus? Do you constantly go to that before you go to Jesus? If Jesus says, God, take this cup from me, I don't want to do it, and God goes, no, you're going to do it, and he goes, bye, and he doesn't die on the cross, that's a problem for us. And if you feel like God is calling you to do something, you go, man, that I am worried about that, so I am not going to do it. That's a problem. But if you go, I had a brief moment of worry, a brief moment of shock, a brief surge of adrenaline and anxiety, that's not sinful. But it's when you take that and you go, okay, but I'm going to take care of this for myself. I'm going to hold on to this. I'm not going to trust Jesus with it. I'm not going to let him work because I can worry about this better than he can deal with it. It becomes sinful. So it's just one of those things where it always goes back to the heart. And I don't have the line for you of like, this is the exact moment it becomes sinful. I think it's different for every person as far as what's the line between that brief moment, right? Is a brief moment 3 seconds? Is a brief moment 1 day? Is a brief moment 3 days? Honestly, no. A brief moment, that's not brief. That's 3 days. But just for the people who are asking the question, man, is worry sinful? Like it's an amazing question. Actually hadn't thought about it in that context. My answer to you is based on my understanding. No, worry inherently at its core is not sinful. But the longer that you worry about it, it is revealing your heart. It's revealing your trust in Jesus. And the more that you don't trust him and you trust your own worries, that becomes a sinful issue. So if you think I'm wrong, I'm open to it. So privately message me. Go find me on Facebook and send me a DM or something, because I will recant if I'm wrong. Absolutely, I care so much about leading people correctly towards Jesus. But man, just telling people like if anytime you have any fear, you're immediately sinful. I just don't see that in Scripture, and but again, I'm willing to be wrong. But what I hope it does for you as well is that you go, okay, cool. I had that moment of worry. I had that moment of panic. I had that moment of anxiety. But now, deep breath. I'm going to Jeeps it out today, feel a little bit better, take that to God, and we're going to move on with it. So that's what I hope for you. Have a great day. If you have any other questions about worry, put them in a comment right here, and I'll look at them a little bit later today. Because again, I'm back tomorrow, and I mean, I have some things that are like leftovers from the sermon I didn't get to fit in, but I would love to actually address real questions if you have them. So thanks guys for hanging out, and I will see you guys later. Until then, peace out.